You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
The way I remember it, we were all on the subway together, and we had to get off at a stop. And so Terry stepped off the train, and I stepped off the train, and then the doors slammed shut behind me before DJ, our son, could step off the train. And as I remember it, we were on the platform freaking out. DJ was inside the train freaking out. Terry pounded on the doors of the train. A couple of people inside the train, those people in New York City who, if you listen to people in red states, don't care about anyone and are just thieves and criminals and crooks and queers. People in the train saw what was happening, leapt into action, and began to pry the doors apart before the train could take off. And then the conductor leaned out, saw what was happening, what the commotion was about, and popped the doors open, and DJ got off. There was a threat, just for an instant, that we would be separated from our son. And we were in a white-hot panic. And we were shaking afterwards for a very long time. I remember everything that happened in vivid detail, but I wasn't there. I remember it as if I was there. Terry told me this story later that day, as soon as we saw each other again, and I had a panic attack. And memory plays tricks on you. This is more than a decade ago now that this happened. Memory plays tricks on you, and that was so scary and so panic-inducing that in my memory, I was there. In my memory, informed by the panic attacks I had about it afterwards, I projected myself into the experience because it was so harrowing for my son and so harrowing for my husband. And I was likewise harrowed by it. And somehow in my memory now, it's so vivid. I'm there on the platform as it's happening. Although I was not there on the platform as it was happening. Terry was alone with DJ as it was happening. And I keep turning that experience over in my head as I read stories in the newspapers about infants being pulled out of their mother's arms while they're breastfeeding, about toddlers being dragged away from their parents in tears, their parents who are not allowed to say goodbye to them, about parents being told that their children are being taken away to bathe and then realizing a half an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours later that they are not going to see their children again. And I'm filled with such rage and such despair and such fucking rage at the motherfuckers who are running this country, pick your metaphor, into the ground, off a cliff, stick an eye in there and just go with ruining this country. Some of us who are old enough to remember the fight for marriage equality remember debating people on the right who are now out there, sometimes the very same people, looking at you, Rick fucking Frothy Mix Santorum, defending this policy, who all through the marriage equality debate said that they opposed marriage equality because every child deserves a mother and a father, and every child deserves to be raised by their biological mothers and fathers. And these motherfuckers are out there defending this. Children in cages, children ripped from the arms of their parents, infants snatched away from their mothers as they're being breastfed, and putting them in cages and herding them into camps. And you sit there with the rage that you feel. And then on top of that come the lies, come Trump saying this is a Democratic policy and a Democratic law, and only the Dems can fix it, which is a fucking lie. This is a policy change rolled out by the White House, crafted by Stephen Miller, backed by John Kelly, backed initially by Donald J. fucking lying asshole gaslighter in chief Trump. And now you have one of his cabinet members out there saying that there is no such policy. Even as reporters are being admitted to the detention camps, and we are getting to see them for the first time, getting to see the pictures of children herded into cages in the United States by our government, in our names, on our dime, then we have to be lied to about it. Then you get on Twitter, and there are the motherfuckers lying on Twitter. Well, what do you expect? They committed a crime. They're going to have their children taken from them. Their parents go to jail. The kids go into foster care. These aren't people who are committing a crime. It is legal to show up at the border, at a legal border crossing, and ask for asylum. This is new. This is different. This is disgusting. And the children swept up in this are likely to have been damaged for life by this experience. As Josh Marshall at Talking Points Memo and others have pointed out, Trump is basically rolling this out as a hostage situation. Nice kids, some of these people fleeing violence in Central America have. Shame if something should happen to them. Give me my money. Give me my money for the wall, or I'm going to keep doing this to these kids. I'm going to keep torturing these kids and torturing these parents if you don't give me the money for the wall. The most important thing we can do about this is vote in fucking November and vote these motherfuckers out. Dem majorities in the Senate, Dem majorities in the House that can begin to take our country back from the braying, fascistic, authoritarian, racist mob that the GOP has assembled and disinhibited and called their base. Sorry, Jeff Flake, this is exactly who Republicans are. This is exactly, so long as there is an R next to your name, Jeff Flake, and you are not caucusing with the Democrats in the Senate for the remainder of your term, this is exactly who you are, motherfucker. We got to vote these fuckers out. If you're interested in what else you can do, Dahlia Lithwick at Slate has a great rundown. The ACLU is litigating this. Make a donation to the American Civil Liberties Union. We've donated tens of thousands of dollars that we've raised for the ACLU via the ITMFA campaign. Kick in some extra money. Just go to aclu.org and click on donate. But there's much more you can do. Please go read Here's How You Can Help Fight Family Separation at the Border by Dahlia Lithwick and Margot Schlanger at Slate. I'm tempted to just read out the whole thing for you, but you can read it yourself. You are online. You're listening to podcasts. You are online. You know how to navigate the worldwide webs. Go read it and stay angry. It's really hard, isn't it, to stay outraged when there's so much outrage coming at us day after day after day? It is hard to stay engaged and hard to stay angry. And it is important every once in a while for our mental health to disengage. I spent a chunk of this weekend stoned out of my mind and at the movies. We will call that self-care. Whatever your self-care looks like right now during the Trump nightmare, please don't feel guilty or let anyone guilt you about leaning into whatever your particular preferred self-care might look like. But then when you sober up the next morning and the pot wears off later that afternoon or evening, do something. And an easy, simple thing for you to do, a very doable thing, again, get online, make a donation to the ACLU. They are fighting this. And these kids need lawyers. If you are a lawyer, if you are an immigration lawyer, the American Immigration Lawyers Association is looking for volunteers to represent these kids and their families. So any lawyers out there listening, any immigration lawyers out there listening who aren't already in the fight, and I think probably all of you are. I don't think people become immigration lawyers because they hate immigrants. Please step up. But the most important thing we can do to stop the daily outrage, the abuse of our environment, of our citizens, a renewed attack on Obamacare to deny health insurance to tens of millions of Americans, and to strip out from the ACA, if they can, requirements that health insurance cover pre-existing conditions, which is just a bank shot way of denying everyone, ultimately, in the end, health insurance because we all got pre-existing conditions sometime. Fastest way to fight all this, the most effective way to fight all this, is to get into the fight for November. If you live in a safe blue spot, and the urban archipelago, the blue dots that turn states from red states to blue states, it is urban America. Urban America is liberal and progressive. If you live in a place where you're already represented by a Dem, look around, look nearby. There is a campaign in the burbs or the exurbs near you that you can get involved with. Don't just say my rep's cool and sit down. Find a nearby district where you can make a difference, where you can canvass, where you can call, where you can volunteer, and get out there and do it for your country, for the Atlantic Alliance, for these kids. All right, coming up on today's show, tons of your Qs, lots of my As, and on the Magnum subscription edition of the Savage Lovecast, twice as long and no ads. Subscribe at savagelovecast.com. Sex researcher Sam Hughes joins us to discuss something that fascinates a lot of my listeners, kinks. Why do some of us have them? Where do they come from? And what can we do about them? That's on the Magnum coming up. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Everlane, luxury basic clothing and accessories made at ethical factories without those retail markups. For free shipping and to support the Lovecast, go to everlane.com/savage. Me Undies makes feel-good underpants your butt will be proud to wear and you will be proud to be seen in. They will be the most comfortable pair of underwear you will ever own, and to check it out yourself, go to meundies.com/savage.
This episode of the Lovecast is brought to you by the good folks at Squarespace. They make it easy to build a beautiful website, blog, or online store. Head on over to squarespace.com/savage for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code SAVAGE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Hey, Dan, I am really confused. I think I was just a victim of sexual assault. I had an Amazon boy deliver my package over a year ago in 100-degree heat, and I was polite enough to invite him in my house and give him some water because he asked. And we ended up having a conversation about dogs and how he has a dog, and I gave him my number, and I told him some basic information about myself, such as, like, I'm married, we had moved to the area recently, we live in the North Bay area, and we didn't speak again for months. He ended up texting me randomly in the middle of the year just asking how my day was, and I never responded. And then today, out of nowhere, I ended up getting 9 text messages, just a slew of very, very odd requests, I guess, and dick pics saying that he had spoken with my husband on a Tumblr feed, saying that all I had wanted was a black dick and someone to come inside of me. And I responded aggressively saying I'm reporting to Amazon because I don't want him. He knows where I live. I don't want him near my house or near me. I told him I'm reporting this to the cops for sexual assault, and I told him I'm blocking his number because I do not want him contacting me. He then, texted me back and he said, I apologize. I'm sure the information I got might have been different. I'm so sorry. I'm not a sexual predator. Please don't report me. I haven't responded to that text message, and I'm planning on blocking his number. And I feel bad because I feel like I'm almost sex shaming this guy. But at the same time, this guy knows where I live. He knows my cell phone number. He knows my basic information about me. Is there anything else I should have done? I'm really looking for feedback from either you or from anybody else who's listening. I could really use some help because I'm definitely freaked out about this.
First, a little perspective. You are not the victim of a sexual assault. You're not even, I'm sorry to say, the victim of sexual harassment. You haven't been assaulted. You weren't physically assaulted. Getting some text messages and a dick pic or 2 or 3 or 9 from some asshole doesn't make you the victim of sexual assault. It makes you the victim of some unwelcome, unpleasant assholery. That you told him to stop and told him that you were going to report him, and he stopped, means technically, legally, you are also not the victim of sexual harassment. Harassment kicks in when somebody makes a pass at you or asks you out and you say no and leave me alone, and they persist. They continue to send you unwelcome text messages or emails or calls and continue to ask you out and continue to send you those horrifying dick pics that nobody wants to receive. Which is not to say that this isn't unnerving and unpleasant. And yes, if I was on the receiving end of similar treatment, I would feel extremely unsafe in my own home, knowing that this person who clearly doesn't have good judgment and clearly has boundary issues and clearly has some odd active fantasies about the person that I am. What is it with this Tumblr account where he claims to have spoken to your husband about you wanting this? That didn't happen, I assume. I expect that you've touched base with your husband about that, and that did not fucking happen, which means this person is a fantasist with your phone number and who knows if indeed he remembers where you live. Block his number. In the future, when you want to offer a glass of water to a service person who's come to your house, offer it to them on the porch. And perhaps in the future, don't give your phone number to near strangers, people you don't really know anything about, which is not to shift the blame or the responsibility onto your shoulders. It's his responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility not to be an asshole and not to make women feel unsafe in their own homes by showering them with dick pics. But we can also, while putting responsibility where it ultimately lays, take proactive measures to protect ourselves, like not handing out our phone number to strangers. I think you should report him to his employer. I don't think that you should call the police. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody will call in who is a lawyer or a cop and explain how I'm wrong about this, but there has been no crime committed here. He made you feel unsafe and uncomfortable in your own home by sending you those text messages. He has not sent you an additional text message after you told him to knock it the fuck off. So he is not harassing you, and he did not assault you, which doesn't make what he did okay, which doesn't mean that you're in the wrong for feeling unnerved or that you're in the wrong for reporting him to Amazon. Please report him to his employer. Doesn't mean that you're in the wrong blocking his phone number. You should block his phone number now. Why are you hesitating to block his phone number? Do it. Do it now. As I've said and hammered it away at and endeavored to get through the sometimes thick, but not always impermeable skulls of the straight boys who listen to this show, women live every day in fear of male sexual violence. So I understand why these text messages and why this person knowing where you live is as unnerving as it is, and why the depth of the discomfort and the acuteness of that violation makes you feel as if you have been sexually assaulted, or makes us feel sexual assault adjacent, harassment adjacent, when it is not technically assault or harassment. This is deeply unnerving behavior for a woman to be on the receiving end of because of the appalling levels of sexual violence that women are subjected to by men day in, day out. So I get where you're coming from, and I understand and I empathize, but you're not going to get anywhere calling the police because no crime has been committed. And in the future, water on the porch and no phone numbers to people that you don't know from fucking Adam.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 23-year-old female, straight person, heterosexual, living in New York City. And I just have like a thought question, I guess. My roommate recently has been complaining about me having loud sex. And it was super tense for a while. So then I approached her about it. And to her, she said that hearing me have sex is a violation of her consent because she did not consent to hearing me have sex. This was also after about 3 weeks ago when she had asked me to stop walking around the house naked, even though she had originally said it was okay. So I guess my question is, like, what do you think? Do you think that walking around the house naked and having loud sex noises is a violation of consent? I think that's like a really loose interpretation of the term consent. And I think she kind of just has a massive stick up her ass, but I'd like to know what you think.
I think your roommate is a crazy person. When it comes to overhearing you have sex, if you're going to have roommates, you are going to overhear your roommates doing things. You're going to overhear your roommate getting up in the middle of the night and getting a bowl of cereal. You're going to overhear your roommate taking a dump. You're going to overhear your roommate making a call, and you're going to overhear your roommate choking on a dick. That just comes bundled with roommates. So on that score, your roommate's entirely out of line. Oh my God, if you have sex in such a way where I can hear it, you have violated my consent. That is bullshit. That said, I think it's within her right as your roommate to say, I don't want to see your ass walking around naked. Thought I might be down when you were about to move in, said I might be okay with that. The reality of you walking around naked, not so into it. So yeah, throw something on, would you? Just to be considerate, because we share this space. We have to find a way to live with each other where we're being respectful of each other's boundaries and comfort levels. And it is a reasonable boundary to say to your roommate, I don't want to see you naked. Not a reasonable thing to say to your roommate, I don't ever want to hear you fuck. Got roommates? You're going to hear them fuck. Got neighbors? Probably going to hear them fuck too. We are social animals, we humans. We clump up. We clump up increasingly in urban centers. We live cheek by jowl. And you will overhear people having sex, just as our ancestors 200, 300,000 years ago on the African savannah overheard each other having sex in the cave, under the next bush, on top of the next tree. It just comes with being a human. You will be subjected to other people's sex noises. Don't like it? Build yourself a soundproof booth that you can sleep in at night. You know when you're swapping dirty messages with that exciting new stranger that you met on some app, and they ask you a question that inevitably gets asked, what are you wearing? You know what you want to be able to say? Me undies. I'm wearing me undies. Of course I'm wearing me undies because they are fun and they're comfortable and they feel as good as they look. And then you can take a picture and send it to them and prove that your me undies feel as good as they look. So to those of you who haven't tried them yet or sexted out pictures of yourselves wearing them yet, you can get incredible underwear sent to your door with me undies, meaning no more hunting around for the perfect pair at crowded stores and eventually settling for good enough. MeUndies are made with a sustainably sourced material from beechwood trees. Their naturally soft fiber makes a fabric that won't sag or ride up. Trust me, once you have put on a pair, you will get it. My husband and MeUndies are the perfect combination. Trust me on that as well. They're super sexy and super comfortable. Nancy is furiously nodding her head right now because she is wearing her own pair of super comfortable MeUndies. MeUndies is so sure that you, like Nancy and Terry, will love your first pair of MeUndies that if you're not happy, they'll do whatever they can to get you into the right pair. And if they can't, you can keep them and they'll refund you. So it really is risk-free to try the best underwear out there ever. And if you're already a part of the MeUndies fam, tell your friends about it through their referral program and you will get a discount and you will get store credit. Win-win. And MeUndies has a deal for my listeners. First-time purchasers get 20% off their first pair of MeUndies and free shipping. That's 20% off plus free shipping and a guarantee that you and your MeUndies will be very happy together. So get your butt over to MeUndies and treat yourself. To get your 20% off your first pair, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/savage. That's MeUndies.com/savage.
Hey, Dan. It's a caller from Western Canada calling. I've got your not-so-typical husband has high libido, wife has low libido question for you. Currently struggling with that kind of thing. I've got a rather high libido. My wife has a rather low libido. And, we have basic vanilla sex every couple weeks or so, and in the meantime I kind of make up for it by masturbating when I can, late at night when everyone else is in bed. Now, my problem that I have is that my wife will go through a period of about 24 to 48 hours every 3 or 4 months where she's incredibly horny. And we go from the vanilla sex once every 2 weeks to literally everything under the sun. Like we're talking anal, dress-up stuff, and it can go one of two ways. Either I get really excited because of the prospect of this happening, and I come in 30 seconds, or I get performance anxiety and I can't perform, which bums me out because this only happens once every 4 months. So I guess my question to you is, what do I do? I don't know. I don't know how to handle the feast and famine that I've currently got going on right now, and it's driving me a little nuts.
So these times when your wife suddenly gets horny, every couple of months, every few months, she goes through these 36, 48, hopefully 72-hour periods where she's just got to have it.
Yeah.
That's what happens?
Pretty much. And I haven't been able to figure out what or why or how, or all I know is that they're very infrequent and they're very unexpected.
And when that happens, you, who I think maybe are a little sex-starved in between those times, or maybe a little bored, is that fair to say?
That would put it mildly, yeah.
Suddenly you have a hard time getting it up, even though you can now do with the wife all the things you've fantasized about doing with the wife during the dry spell, or you come too quickly.
That's right.
That's the problem. Can't get it up, come too quickly.
Yeah, it's entirely performance anxiety because in my brain I'm like, okay, this is the one. If I get it right here, then maybe she'll want more.
Mm-hmm.
And and inevitably that kind of just backfires, and it either happens too quickly because I'm excited, or I'm like, oh, I'm not ready, and
right,
and so.
Okay, well, I think you need to tell yourself, and you need to believe that if you whiff one, if you miss the opportunity one of these times when she gets super duper crazy horny and is up for anything, that it's not going to result in her never going into heat again in the way that she seems to. That this is cyclical and happens for her regularly, and whether or not this comes up for her isn't dependent on your performance on any of these occasions. And you just have to believe that. You have to tell yourself that over and over again until you believe it. And then you need to, it's just a simple performance anxiety problem. And the solution always for performance anxiety is to take the pressure off. And that means, shifting expectations or changing people's expectations about what's going to happen. If everything is rock hard cock dependent in that moment, that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you to break out the rock hard cock. And so the convo you need to have with your wife is, these are wonderful times. I enjoy this. I look forward to these moments when you go into heat, and I'm not shaming you that, you know, in between these moments, you're not up for as many things as you are in these moments. I treasure these times. Puts a lot of pressure on my dick, and sometimes that gets in my head. So oral, toys, rolling around, right? If I come right away, we can keep going. My tongue is still hard as I can make it. My forearm and fingers and hands are still hard. If we get some dildos and toys, and hopefully you're not one of those guys who's threatened by busting out a vibrator or busting out a dildo.
We have a plethora. We have a treasure chest.
Okay.
That sits there and collects dust, and then literally once every 4 months it comes out, and yeah.
So this is not a problem then. This is just a convo you need to have with the wife, where you say, this is how you work. We've been together long enough that I can see that, you know, this pattern. We're both conscious and cognizant of this pattern, and it's how you work.
Yeah.
And how I work, and it's not ideal, but, you know, I'm human, and how I work is when this suddenly, you know, it's Christmas morning, I get a little nervous. It can get into my head. So toys, tongues, vibrators, dick. If I come too soon, we can keep going. And you'll find if you say these things to someone that you're less likely to lose your erection. You're less likely to have performance anxiety when you know that your performance is not entirely dependent on having a rock hard cock every single second.
So like you said in multiple calls, put the caveat out there that this may not go well, and then that takes a little pressure off.
Exactly. No, it's not even saying it may not go well. It's that we're going to change our expectations. It may not go well if our expectations are PIV or PIA or PIM intercourse with my rock hard cock, and everything's rock hard cock dependent, and that kind of gets in my head, right? And that can throw you out of the moment. And so our expectations now, we're going to have amazing, hot, fun, crazy sex in these 3 to 4 month intervals when you suddenly need it bad and need it in lots of different ways. And I'm going to give it to you, but it might not be dick every single time or the whole time.
Now, what do I do in the 3 months dry spell? Like right now, we're in about 3 weeks now, but from like nothing.
3 weeks of no sex at all?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oy, oy, oy. Do you talk about that honestly with the wife? Like these dry spells?
Yeah, and it always ends up in a fight. And I mean, like she goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night. She's dead exhausted, and I'm a 2 o'clock in the morning kind of guy. And she's historically stated that her favorite time is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but we're both at work, so it's not working.
Yeah.
And like we've tried the non-monogamy thing. I'm not capable of doing that because I get too attached. I get too addicted to the new relationship energy, and I act inappropriately. So I know that for me, that's not an option I can do.
And it's not possible with your jobs for you to pop over for lunch.
Not at all, unfortunately. It's just not. And we're in two different sides of the city.
Well, the trick is in a situation like this not to let resentment creep in and poison everything and ruin everything.
And that's what it's doing right now.
Like,
it's been a 15-year kind of build-up of resentment.
This is a logistical problem, not a lack of attraction problem and a timing problem. And the solution is some effort being made. And this is on her, some effort being made between these 3-4 month crazy times, between going into heat, where you are indulged, you are pleasured or accommodated. And that is, as I like to call it, and this is something that I've done in my own relationship, we call it assisted masturbation. I'm not feeling it right now, but I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
And hopefully she's willing to do that. Hopefully when she's not, aroused, when she's not horny, she's not repulsed by you. And it would be capable of just having a seat on your face while you lay there and jack off. Or if you like having your tits played with, lay beside you and play with your tits and say a couple of dirty things into your ear, but no expectations. It's about shifting expectations. No expectation on her that she has to put out. No expectation on her that she's going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Right? And in the same way that shifting the expectations or changing them or broadening them will free you up and result in less performance anxiety, destroying your boner, changing the expectations may make it easier for her to engage with you at those times when she's not particularly horny. Because if she fears like, all right, he's horny, I'm not horny. If I help him out, he's going to want to fuck me and I don't feel it. I don't want to get fucked right now. So I can't help him out because he's going to try to upgrade to sex and I'm not feeling it. So I can't risk even being a little bit intimate for fear of having to say no. And if you can promise her at these moments when I need a masturbatory assist, I promise you I'm not going to try to weasel my way into your pussy. I promise you.
Honestly, I never do that because actually that's not my favorite thing to do. So I never pressure in that regard. So.
Well, then the solution to this, and hopefully your wife, maybe make her listen to this advice, is for her to meet you not even halfway. This is meeting you, a 15th of the way, a 20th of the way. That you're in your relationship, you masturbate a lot, and that's okay. And hopefully she doesn't tell you not to masturbate or blow up if she discovers that you've looked at porn. To meet your own needs.
No, she's very respectful about that.
Okay.
I try and kind of blow the cap off as much as I can to take the pressure off. But sometimes, just
right. Sometimes you need intimacy and physical contact. And she can provide that for you without it being sex, without the expectations being as putting her under pressure in the same way her expectations put you under pressure when she's in heat. That in between those times, you may ask her, and you have to ask without resentment and ask without bitterness. Ask her to just come lay down with me for a few minutes. I need to get off, and I want it to be something we did together. You don't have to do anything. Lay beside me or let me, touch your breasts or have a seat on my face while I have a wank.
Okay.
A masturbatory assist is a reasonable accommodation when there's mixed matched libidos. It can't all be on the higher libido partner to starve and starve and starve and go without and go without and go without. But it's easier for the low libido partner
to be more proactive about it.
Yeah, you have to be more proactive. You have to put it out there. It's easier for the low libido partner to provide that masturbatory assist if the person receiving it isn't attempting to upgrade that to full sex, which the partner with the lower libido didn't want, right? Is willing to accept that it is a masturbatory assisted masturbation, not sex. Good luck.
Thank you very much for calling.
Bye. Would you buy a t-shirt for $50 if you knew it only cost $7 to make? I wouldn't. Nancy wouldn't. The tech-savvy at-risk youth wouldn't. With Everlane, you will never have to overpay for quality clothes. Everlane only makes premium essentials using the finest materials without traditional markups, and they tell you their real costs, so you know you're never overpaying. Everlane wants you to know what you're paying for and why. They are radically transparent about every step in their process, from the materials they use to the ethical factories they work with. Because Everlane sells directly to you, their prices are 30 to 50% lower than traditional retailers. Everlane's clothes look better, cost less, and last longer. Essentials like their Cotton Crew t-shirt, the Slim Fit jean, and the men's Japanese Oxford are exactly what they should be. Simple, stylish, and made from quality materials. Everlane's timeless essentials are just what you're looking for. No frills, just quality. And right now you can check out my personalized collection at everlane.com/savage. Plus you will get free shipping on your first order. That's everlane.com/savage. everlane.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 30-year-old straight female in Texas. I've been dating this guy for about 6 months, and it's been fun. If I'm totally honest, I don't think I see it being much more than fun in the long run, but he is the best sex I've ever had. He's really into swinging and sleeping with other people and watching and all the fun things. I'm new to the lifestyle and enjoying a lot of it, but I'm still figuring out what I do and don't like and can't tolerate. My biggest issue right now is that he is a serial Tinder, Bumble app guy, is always on these apps, constantly swiping and chatting with girls. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me a little bit. He's totally open about it and lets me read through the convos and says it's purely for entertainment value. Okay. But it turns my stomach a little, and I've been having a really hard time with reading the convos that switch over to text, i.e. girls he has some intention of meeting and possibly sleeping with. They're so explicit, and I get that awful feeling in the pit of my stomach every time I read them. The conversations and snaps get etched in my brain on repeat, and I conjure all these images and scenarios in my head. I'm torn between wanting to know and not wanting to know because I have that visceral reaction every time. It's a mix of fear and insecurity that I don't know how to overcome. Add to this that I don't get on any apps and don't have these conversations with anyone, nor do I particularly want to. He slept with girls without me, but I have not played without him. Where do I go from here? I enjoy hanging out with him, and I really don't want to lose the sex because it's amazing, but I'm not really sure how to deal with this.
There are people who are into non-monogamy or into open relationships in theory, but not in practice. And sometimes it's the person themselves who it doesn't work for them in practice. Just knowing that their partner sleeps with other people unnerves them or makes them unhappy, or the reptile brain jealousy trumps whatever higher brain affinity they may have for open relationships as a model and a concept, and it just doesn't work for them. But sometimes it doesn't work for them in practice because the person that they're attempting to have an open relationship with in practice is being an inconsiderate asshole. And I think that's the case here, that this might work for you in practice and not just in theory if your boyfriend was a little bit more considerate, on the apps a little less, maybe on Tinder a little less, chatting with fewer women, or keeping this out of sight. Even if you knew it was going on, you want a little plausible deniability. You want to be able to feel more secure in the relationship and not constantly be thinking and wondering about all the women that he has stacked up over Atlanta like planes at a hub airport and air traffic control, bringing them in for a landing. That makes you feel insecure. That makes you unhappy. It unnerves you. And that's not an open relationship problem. That's an open relationship with this particular guy problem. That he may want more sex with more people than you're comfortable with in an open relationship. That for you, it would work better as a once in a while thing or something that you did together. You've only been with other people since you've been with him together, and that works for you. He wants to be with lots of other people in addition to you and is constantly lining it up. That doesn't work for you. That doesn't mean an open relationship won't work for you. It means the kind of open relationship that works for him isn't the kind of open relationship that works for you. If he wants to be in relationship with you and an open relationship with you, he may have to adjust. He may have to engage with other women a little differently. That may be the price of admission that he has to pay to be with you. It isn't a price of admission that he's willing to pay, if not to change the way that he interacts with other women, to be a little bit more circumspect about it, in deference to your insecurities, to take into account who you are and how you feel, then this isn't going to work.
Hey, are you a creative type? Sure you are. You can turn your cool idea into a new website or showcase your work so easily with Squarespace. They make it a breeze to crank out a beautiful, professional-looking website or blog, or even an online store, leaving you more time to do what you're best at. They have templates that were created by world-class designers that you can just drop in and it looks good right away. And they have built-in e-commerce so you can set up a store. Everything is optimized for mobile right out of the box, and they have great analytics so you can see how your project is growing. So make it yourself with the help of Squarespace. Head on over to squarespace.com/savage for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code SAVAGE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/savage and use the offer code SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. My 13-year-old daughter came out as gay to me a couple months ago. The conversation was really sweet, like a lot of I love yous back and forth, so that part went great. Of course, she's 13 and part of Gen Z, so she has all this extra lingo at her disposal. So what she actually came out to me as was homo-romantic, asexual. So she has crushes on girls, but has no sexual interest. So put a pin in that one for a second. So apparently, other than her friend group, I'm the only one she's told. Like, I'm the only grown-up in her life that she's told. Which at first I was like very honored, and she lives with her mom most of the time. So I was kind of like, oh, as the non-custodial parent, hey, I'm winning this divorce. But like as more time is going on, I'm starting to be like, oh, it's getting weirder that she hasn't told her mom yet. And I kind of don't know if I should do anything because her mom is a conservative Christian, but one of the more sane ones, if that makes sense. Like, she's definitely, as far as I know, anti-gay marriage, but I doubt it frankly ever comes up at home. She probably just doesn't even talk about it at home. I guess what I'm wondering is, like, should I try and help my daughter prepare for that conversation to come out to her mom? Because I kind of don't want to put any extra anxiety into her head over on the conversation if it isn't actually there. Like, if there's other reasons she hasn't told her mom besides the fact that her mom is a conservative Christian, I kind of don't want to create that anxiety. And really, like, I don't feel any guilt over it to begin with, just like not telling the mom just because, it's not my story to tell. Plus, if she's asexual, then mom literally has nothing to worry about at the moment. But I guess second thing I'm curious about is like the asexual thing. Like at 14, or 13, like I wasn't interested in sex either, so I'm wondering, like, I don't want to be that parent who's like, oh, you'll grow out of it. It's just a phase. But should I kind of worry about it? Because I guess I'm worried about, if she identifies as ace now, is that going to create a groove in her head if when she eventually comes into her sexuality, she's going to still have that in her head of like, no, I'm asexual, and create kind of like a negative groove in her head or in her brain over the whole sexuality thing. So what do you think, Dan? Should I help her come out to her mom, and should I worry or like keep an eye on the whole asexual thing? I don't know.
In answer to your first question, leave mom the fuck out of it. Don't pressure your daughter to come out to her mother. She's a conservative Christian. Maybe she seems decent and kind and loving and not too hung up on the sex, but people can have incredibly weird and unpredictable reactions when their own children come out to them. And that mom is a conservative Christian, which is something that your daughter is no doubt acutely aware of, makes her a more dangerous person to come out to than dad was. There's a reason she came out to you first. She may want to wait until she's less vulnerable than she is now. Kids whose parents have terrible reactions when they come out are at greater risk of suicide. Kids who come out and mom or dad or both have bigoted, horrible, off-the-hook reactions. Your daughter, if she's online and she's learning about things like asexuality and homo-romanticism, has no doubt encountered the stories of people who came out to a parent or the wrong sets of parents and suffered terribly in the aftermath. As a result, 40% of homeless teenagers are LGBTQ kids who were kicked out or thrown out after they came out or were outed to their families. There are risks and dangers there, even if one parent is supportive. Your daughter most likely knows all this, and there's a reason she's not telling mom. Don't game out telling mom. Tell her you respect her, tell her that you love her, and tell her that you understand that coming out is a process and it takes time, and she'll come out to different people in her life when she is ready. You don't even have to mention mom. As for the asexuality thing, 13. When I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, I told people I was bi. And people in my life generally kind of accepted that, even though I knew it wasn't true, or I realized shortly after I began telling people that it wasn't true. That doesn't mean that there aren't actually bisexual guys in the world. It doesn't mean that everybody who's bi is going through a phase, but some people, young people in particular, try on identities, embrace labels that can be transitional for some. Your daughter may not, in the end, be asexual. Tell her that you love her. Again, tell her that you respect who she is and how she identifies. But that can change. Not that you're invested in it changing. If she is asexual all her life, you're down. But she should just keep listening to herself, listening to her sexuality, listen to that little voice in her head, listening to her crotch, and see where she goes, if she goes anywhere at all. And wherever she lands, wherever she winds up, you will love her. The same crowd that gets online and talks about gender identity, talks about sexual orientation, talks about games out, coming out to parents, the same places online where people get familiar with and comfortable with terms like asexuality and homo-romantic and hetero-romantic. They also talk a lot about how gender and sexuality is fluid. And I think that that's a good opening to speak with your daughter. This is her identity. You accept it. You respect her. You love her. Identities change. That there is a fluidity. That gender and sexuality for many people is fluid, and that she should continue to be true to herself. And if it's true right now and true to herself that she is asexual and so identifies, great. And 5 years from now, she should be true to herself then. And if she still identifies as asexual, then Yahtzee. And if she identifies as something else, then Yahtzee as well.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 20-something bisexual female from California in a really amazing long-term relationship with a really wonderful partner. I've definitely orgasmed during sex. However, I've recently been masturbating with my electric toothbrush, and I found that when I've been doing that, I've been able to squirt during masturbation. I have not found that I've been able to do that during intercourse with any of my partners so far, and would really love to figure out how to do that. And I'm wondering if you have any tips or tricks for a female, or if you know anyone who would have any tips for a female who wants to learn how to squirt during sex.
That electric toothbrush that when you're alone and you use, you can squirt when you come, hand that electric toothbrush to the person you're having sex with, and then you'll be squirting during partnered sex. You can even try incorporating that electric toothbrush during intercourse, but this is an easy one to solve. There's this thing. When you use it, you squirt. You want to be able to squirt with somebody else in the room? Hand them that thing.
Hi, Dan. I am calling about the woman in episode 607 who was wondering if she should come out to her parents about dancing. And as a former dancer myself, I would say to not tell your parents because the turnover is so high. And you might think that, 2 years in, you see yourself doing this for as long as possible, but a lot of girls leave maybe 3 years in, 5 years in. So just letting you know my opinions.
Hi, I'm actually calling about episode 607, the woman that asked how she could explain to her family that she was a stripper. My daughter is a stripper, and when I found out, I was surprised, but came to accept it and even understand why it was so valuable for her. Her father, on the other hand, didn't know, and we were all covering for her about it, and I got uncomfortable with that, so I suggested that she write him a letter and tell him what she was doing and why she liked it, and let him know that if he had any questions about it, he was welcome to ask, but she wasn't interested in his opinion. His response was that he was happy she was happy, despite him not being so happy about it, and that was that. And she was off the hook, and we were all off the hook from having to lie for her anymore. And that was a great outcome. So that's what I would do if I were this young woman.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. One great way to support three great organizations fighting Trump, itmfa.org, impeach the motherfucker already. Go there, get t-shirts, hats, buttons, lapel pins, coffee mugs, and people will ask you when they see you in your ITMFA t-shirt what that means, and you get to tell them, and it's fun, and it raises money for the American Civil Liberties Union, for the International Refugee Assistance Project, which is also fighting family separation, and for Planned Parenthood. And I will be in New York City later this week to host Black Box Playlist. I picked 8 really gay songs from Pride, and 8 writers wrote short plays based on them. For more information about that show, and it sounds like it's going to be fascinating and fun, and I will be there, go to blackboxplaylist3.brownpapertickets.com. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian, and me and Nancy and the tech-savvy at-risk youth. We will all be back at you next week in an installment of the Savage Lovecast.